Important information about juniors and seniors. Dollars for Scholars closed up this week. Remind your students to start the application to apply for a scholarship as soon as possible. Internship applications closed up this week. We got a lot of students doing internship this year. Most of them were posted on Elkhart High School Instagram page. March 6th, students are planning on taking the SAT, expected to come school in person for testing. Prom day is Saturday 11. Make sure your student check for tickets information after spring break. Elkhart High School ceremony is June 5. I know clubs like Key Club, Student Government are planning on doing a lot of fundraisers for next month. Just be aware of that and encourage your students to participate. Musical Ismarel season is coming up for students that are into orchestra, choir, and band. A SpongeBob musical is coming up March 8 till March 10. The Coffee House Talent Show is coming up in March. Auditions are February 28 and 29 after school. About sports, track and field season started practice is scheduled to be after school until 6 or 6:30. Winter sports are coming up and to an end, but we had a great season. The national cheer team went to Florida a few weeks ago, and we did pretty good. The basketball team did such a great job as well. Tennis tryouts for cheer, no, tennis tryouts for girls are going to be on March 11. I want to share some pictures about appreciation work that we did for principals and students as well. We have Mr. Bird, the ETI principal. We have Mr. Miller, which is part of the staff members of Elkhart High School. We have Miss Daviana Winfield. She's a student and president of Simavera Upside Down this year. We have Miss Boyden, and she's a sponsor for this club. We have for oh, we have breakfast reward for students since we donated a lot of cans and we had such a great job as well. And the annual African American History Oratory Contest, February 22nd, which occurred last week. And happened to be. We did such a great job. A lot of students came over and we did such a great job. Yep. And thank you for watching.
I have a question. What grade were you in?
I'm a sophomore.
Sophomore. And what's your plan for, after, what do you want to be when you graduate?
I want to be an engineer in biomedical.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my suggestion is go to Purdue University, okay?
Okay.
Of course, then.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Maria.
Great job, Maria. Right, next on the agenda, we have the consent items. Do I have a
So moved.
Yeah, second.
second? I have a second. Any discussion regarding the consent item?
Yes. Okay. So first, I'm going to start with celebrating some of our retired employees. So we have Patricia Heitzman at Pinewood. She is taught third grade. She was with us for 19 years. Cynthia Whitaker, she was at Oslo, special education teacher, 33 years. And then also James Woodfin, he was the Bristol head custodian for over 28 years. So this is remarkable, and we're thankful for them and all the years that they served our students, and we're sad to see them go, but happy to allow them to celebrate a glorious retirement. And onto that, we have amazing donations again. So we have a $100 anonymous donation in honor of Brett Kramer, and that went for outstanding lunch balances for Cleveland, Eastwood, and Oslo. We had a $50 anonymous donation in honor of Brett Kramer, and that was for Cleveland lunch donations. There were 3 different donations that went for the Future Business Leaders of America, which is an extracurricular activity that we have students that participate in. And so Boutique Bounce Houses donated $500, J&E Utilities donated $500, and Hoover Automotive donated $250. We had $150 donated to Pierre Moran for the Hoopla event from Drew Danick. Sherry Dixon donated a 2005 Jeep Liberty Sport, which is estimated at a $6,000 value, and that went to our automotive tech class. Then we received $2,000 from Kevin Signer for the Elkhart Athletics to go towards our Elkhart Health and Strength facility. And our last very generous donation, in which we're also going to have Tony England step up and speak about, this was $17,000. And it was a device that's called the Toby Dynavox, if I say it right. And Mr. James Frumeyer, he donated that in honor of his wife to benefit our students. And so Tony is going to take an opportunity to speak about the value of this and what a gracious donation in honor of a wonderful woman this is.
So I'd first like to point out that Jim's here. So if Jim could stand, and we could give Jim a round of applause for his wonderful donation to his wife. I'd like to share just a little bit about the Toby Dynavox. It is a system that allows somebody who no longer has voice or has not had voice to be able to speak. It is a system where I actually was able to participate with eye gaze and communicate with other people without ever saying a word. It's an amazing piece of technology that works for folks who've had voice and then lose voice, or folks that have never had voice and have never heard. One of the things that Jim shared with me is that his wife was able to put her voice in, and then whenever she would be able to use it, it would actually come out in how she sounded in her voice. What I'd like to do is just take a minute to read these 4 wonderful paragraphs about Jean that Jim gave me. And that is that Jean was born in Chicago in 1951. She lived there until the 3rd grade, when her parents moved to South Holland, a small Chicago suburb close to where I-80 crosses the Indiana border. She and her husband Jim lived 2 blocks apart, but attended different grade schools and didn't meet until they began riding the bus together at the beginning of their freshman year in high school. They were good friends throughout high school and did not have their first date until halfway through their senior year. There was one school organization that they were in together, and were both officers responsible for planning and executing the dance after home football and basketball games. They married in 1973 and were blessed to share both their 50th wedding anniversary and their 50th college reunion this past year. Jean went to Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, where she was a double major in French and Russian. She was certified to teach both grade school and high school. Though she never taught modern languages, she did spend many years in the classroom, first as a substitute and an aide in the Colorado Springs public school system, where Jim was stationed at Fort Carson. When they returned to Illinois, Jean served as a preschool teacher and then for 13 years as a gifted program teacher in 4th through 8th grade in the same school she had attended in South Holland, the same school her 2 daughters would also attend. And in her spare time, she took Spanish language classes at the local junior college, as she thought that they may be useful somewhere down the road. She and Jim took early retirements and moved to South Bend in 2007. Jean got busy locally right away. She was very active in the Christ Child Society of South Bend, serving as a board member and as chairs for the strategic planning committee of the book program and the dental program. Through the Christ Child Society, she began tutoring children in reading at St. Adalbert School on South Bend's west side. The majority of the children are English language learners, so her Spanish did come in handy. She soon took over responsibility for coordinating the tutors, and later she became volunteer librarian. She and Jim were on the school board for 14 years. Jean, the president for the majority of those years, Jim is secretary. She planned and organized the school's centennial celebration in 2011. Also, soon after she moved to South Bend, Jean got connected to the Robinson Center, helping the center utilize her training in working with gifted children to help them enrich its summer activities. Jean was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, in March of 2022. She continued to fulfill all of her responsibilities throughout the ensuing months. She completed her final project for Christ Child, its annual National Day of Service, in mid-October. Jean then died on December the 25th of 2023. It's very rare that we get an opportunity to hear the folks' histories that have donated something to us, especially something this special. And we appreciate Jim and his love and his family and in Jean's memory to give us something so special so that their both love of education continues on with our kids. Our assistive technology team is back with Jim right now, and I don't think I've ever seen a more bittersweet moment as they're very excited about the opportunity to use this equipment and the heartache and joy in hearing Jim actually describe his wife and what she was in the community here and in their community elsewhere. So one last time, if we could please just give one wonderful hand for Jean as this gift has been donated.
Give a motion. Oh, any comments from the public on the consent items? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Actually, if I can, I'd like to say something. Jim, I want to personally thank you for your donation. I have a daughter who utilizes the same device, and donations like yours that make stuff like that possible. She actually, if we weren't here and ECS, I don't know that we ever would have known about it. Not until you have a loved one, such as a parent, a child, a spouse, or a student who can't communicate, that you don't realize the value of a voice. Not something like this for our students. My daughter, especially, she's been lucky enough to try it out with the eye gaze that Tony mentioned last year from Hawthorne. We went a different route. She doesn't utilize the eye gaze because she can't get it down yet, but she's using the touch. She's still using Pilot. I am encouraged. I hope no as on the children and students of ECS. Not thank you enough for this.
Next, we have old business. Mr. Thorne, we have Board Policy 3142.1, a non-renewal of administrative contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. The administration is presenting tonight for further consideration and approval proposed revisions to this policy. The policy, as revised, would direct the superintendent during a period of time commencing December 1 and ending January 15th of each calendar year to issue preliminary notification of consideration of contract non-renewal to an administrator covered by this policy. Again, the administration is seeking approval of this proposed revision this evening.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by the board. By the audience. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Business, we have Board Policy 2240, controversial issues.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Tonight, the administration is presenting for preliminary consideration proposed revisions to this policy. The policy as revised provides further direction to the district's teachers regarding discussion of controversial topics when consideration of those controversial topics is related to the instructional goals of the course of study. Specifically, the policy addresses expectations of the corporation when a student's understanding of a controversial issue might be expected under the state of Indiana's academic standards. The policy also limits the ability of teachers to express their personal opinion regarding a topic and places in the hand of building principle the ability of a teacher to discuss issues not covered by the course of study. Tonight, again, we're just bringing this for initial consideration by the board. Not asking to waive second reading. Happy to answer any questions or any other thoughts board members may have over the next couple of weeks prior to bringing it back for final approval.
Thank you. Agenda, we have Board Policy 9130, public.
Mr. Scott, I presume you're taking them out of order because we have miscellaneous position?
Oh, it's tucked into.
Yes.
Compensation, yes.
Thank you. Tonight, the administration is seeking waiver of second reading as to this particular policy. The only changes to this policy actually are changes to the title for two positions under the policy. The first would be a change to the title for the position of manager of after-school and community programming. The focus of this position is moving away from managing merely after-school programming and community programming towards the development of programming and partnerships with families, while continuing its focus as well on services and activities for the broader community. The employee currently serving in this position will continue in the position, albeit with a change in focus. The second is a change in the title for the grant-funded position of lead program manager for family schools and community grant to FSCS data management manager. As the district has moved further along with this grant, it has become increasingly clear that the data gathering and reporting responsibilities are significant, and it made sense to make this the focus of this particular position. Program management components are to be transferred to an outside contractor. This position will continue to be fully funded by the grant, and again, will exist during the tenure of the grant. And all of the work of the contractor will also be funded by the grant, and therefore there is no financial impact to the school corporation with these changes to assignments and position. Seeking your approval this evening and asking you to waive second reading.
I have a quick,
Yes.
can we, I know that we're trying to, as we go through these and as titles change and as positions have been added, one of the things we've done is to put a designation if they're grant funded
Yes.
on them. And so can we just add that the manager of community and family engagement is also grant funded?
Don't believe that will continue to be grant. Looking to
Doug?
people behind me on that question.
I think it will, I think probably 80%. And so we can add that pretty easily.
I just think that's helpful for people who, when they
Yes.
see the list, to know that some of these are grant funded. I think that's important.
And I think we can certainly address that, that it's, I think probably what we want to do is characterize that as partially grant funded.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Just some kind of designation so that we know. It also flags it for future is
Absolutely.
to review it as needed.
We can make that change.
Have a motion for board policy 3422.
Motion.
Second. Have a motion. Further discussion by the board? Any discussion from the audience? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, we're at board policy 9130. Mr. Thorne.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. This policy, again, is presented tonight for preliminary consideration. This policy is presented will establish orderly procedures for processing of complaints and concerns regarding both employees, students, programming, and curricular materials. Bringing this tonight merely for initial consideration. Happy to answer any questions as it relates to this policy.
Any questions from the board? Audience?
I have a question.
You can please,
This, you guys are trying to make it a policy, but isn't it more of a guideline that you guys already use anyway? I just feel like this could be something that could be on the website, handed out to families instead of a policy. My second question is, I'm not sure why you guys have book material in there, because that's its own policy, right?
It's covered right now by an administrative regulation, not by board policy. So we're taking it from an administrative regulation into something that actually is voted by the board.
Okay. Well, what does that do to the other policy then?
That current administrative regulation will, in all likelihood, be superseded by this policy. And so I would anticipate that once this policy is approved, that administrative regulation will be abrogated by the superintendent at that point in time.
Okay. And then what about transportation? Because nothing in here is about transportation. There's issues.
Complaints about transportation would follow through the same thing because this deals with employees, programming, curriculum. If we need to expand on that particular component of the policy, talk about operations in general, I don't think that would be a problem to address that particular issue.
Is there a reason why this came up now after all these years? I don't like this policy. I think it's a terrible policy. I think it's more of a guideline instead of a policy. So I hope that you guys reconsider it because I don't think it's a good policy to have. I think it's going to cause divide with the community because there's already problems with trying to get things settled as it is with community members and going through the steps that, like, per se, what if, I'll use me as an example, I have a problem with a teacher and instead of going to that teacher because I've had problems with that teacher and I've tried with that teacher way in the past, I go to the principal or their head. Well, then they say, oh, well, you have to follow this policy because this is policy versus guideline is completely two different things. So you have to follow this policy. So you got to go talk to the teacher first and then come back to me. So then it could take weeks longer to get a resolution with something going on. I just think it's a terrible policy. I'm not sure why you guys are bringing it up right now.
Thank you.
Comments? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Next, we have a new course proposal. Mr. Surge.
The administration presents the following proposed new course offering for the board to review. It's American Lit and English 223. It will be offered in the 11th grade year in the second semester. It is not replacing. We're moving that course to first semester of the senior year to match it up with advanced comp because we feel it'll match up better with the advanced comp course. And that 223 matches up with state standards better.
What does that do for the juniors who are taking it this year?
They'll continue as it is. It's not going to hurt them at all. But this course will give an additional dual credit course that they can use on a college transcript. Okay, we present, this one is this is a pre-AP World History course. The Freshman Center doesn't currently offer geography anymore. So what we want to do is create a pre-AP course. So when kids get to the 10 through 11 building, hopefully they're going to be a lot more successful in the advanced placement course they can take there for college credit.
Questions or comments from the board?
I would just like to say, Mr. Surge, to your team and the teachers who are teaching this, I'm appreciative that you are continuing to look at the courses and the offerings and provide opportunities for kids in the higher academic. I know teachers have to get certified to teach these courses, and I appreciate their willingness to do that. At the end of the day, this all benefits our students and their ability to earn credits and continue their education and be better prepared.
Yeah, the high school administration appreciates that as well. It gives us a robust offering of courses for our honors kids as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I would appreciate also that, it brings additional rigor to our high school, and we need a lot of that. So, and we thank you very much for doing so.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Surge.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to momentarily adjourn the board meeting and have Mr. Scott come forward, and we will now conduct our 1028 additional appropriates public hearing.
Okay. I would tweak that just a little bit and say suspend our regular meeting
Suspend.
and open the 1028 hearing. So at this time, just to give a refresher to board members who've been on a while and for our new folks, I'm going to ask that our bond counsel, Mr. Jeff Quackenbush, come to the microphone, and just give you a quick kind of overview of why we do what we do.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Mr. Mao, it's a pleasure to be here. Jeff Quackenbush with Barnes and Thornburg. So tonight, what you're doing is approving the last step in the financing for a project through your building corporation. And one of the primary reasons that you have a building corporation and you do the financings in these manner is because of Indiana law that requires it puts a limit on the amount of bonds that can be issued in the name of the school corporation as general obligation bonds. And so that limit is extremely low. It was imposed back in 1866 and it's never been increased. And so to be able to finance facilities, roads, streets, buildings, sidewalks, et cetera, for school corporations, libraries, cities, counties, towns, this mechanism of having a building corporation is put in place to do that. The payments come from your debt service fund, just like they would if you issue the bond directly through a bank or whatever you might do from a direct loan to the school corporation. So from a credit standpoint, the investors treat it identical to as if it were a obligation of the school corporation. So there's no decrease in the credit quality by having it go through the building corporation. The three members of the building corporation by their governing documents are subject to appointment and removal by the school board. So they are controlled in essence by you, but by state law, they are treated as a separate entity and they are not subject to that limitation on the ability to borrow. And so your borrowing is measured more on what you can actually afford and stay within your current tax rate rather than from some law that was created in the Constitution back in 1866. The reason we are doing a $6 million financing at this point in time is because the process related to that is much more concise and simple in format than it is if you do a larger financing. And so that allows you to get this project moving forward more quickly. It only requires 2 public meetings in the school board as opposed to 4. It reduces the time period for waiting from roughly 6 months down to roughly 3.5 to 4 months. So it allows you to get this project done much more quickly. And I know that Mr. Scott will go into this probably in a little more detail, but this is very common, especially when you're doing projects of this size and of this nature, and when they're not having any impact on the tax rate. As a matter of fact, the tax rate will remain the same or go down over the term of the financing as a result of your other bonds that are outstanding. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or walk you in more detail from 1866 to today of Indiana law on finance if you want to do that, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
1867, let's go. Hey, just one quick question. This is a non-for-profit organization.
Yes, sir. It's operated under the nonprofit statute, and they are volunteers, so they do not get paid for their service. They meet 2 times, roughly the same period of time that you do on this financing, and then they don't meet otherwise until another project is needed for their assistance. There are 3 members in the community that have been on the building corporation since I started over 30 years ago. Some have joined the building corporation in the last 10 years, some more recent than that. But typically there are either retired individuals in the community or other members in the community that are willing to operate in this rather simple and straightforward process. You're welcome. I think I'll turn it back over to Mr. Scott.
Okay. So to continue the hearing by Indiana law, which is 2026-7-37, whenever a school corporation proposes to construct or renovate a school building at a cost in excess of $1 million, it must first hold a public hearing. The notice of tonight's hearing was published in the newspaper on January 24th. This evening, we're seeking board approval to issue the 2024 Series A first mortgage bonds for the purpose of providing funds to pay for the health and wellness facility high school addition project. Approval of a second set of actions titled Appropriation Resolution will then provide the authority to expend the bond funds on the project as there are insufficient funds available for providing for out of the existing budget or tax levy. Project includes but not limited to, in addition to the high school building, which upon completion is anticipated to contain a health and wellness center consisting of classrooms, training rooms, a large fitness room with weight and other exercise machines, and some storage spaces, all of which are anticipated to provide spaces for physical education classes and extracurricular programs. At this time, Mr. President, as required by Indiana Code, I would ask that we receive any public comment. So I'll step aside for a moment, see if we have any public comment.
Comments? Hearing none, seeing none.
Okay, so at this time, Mr. President, hearing none, I would ask that we close the hearing and return to the regular meeting.
Consider the hearing closed. And we now.
Okay, so now we have two resolutions. The first is the resolution confirming the lease, approving the 2024 bonds and related matters, Health and Wellness Facility High School Edition. So, Mr. President, I would ask for board approval for this resolution.
So moved.
Second? I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion from the board? Questions or discussion from the audience? Hearing none. Proceed. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and my second and final resolution then is the additional appropriation resolution and related matters. Again, this is to allow us to spend the bond funds once we receive them.
You have a motion. Second? Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions from the board? Any discussions or questions from the audience?
I have a question.
Please step forward to the microphone.
Can I get further? What this means, whereas notice of a hearing, hold on. Whereas the board has found that there are not sufficient funds available or provided for in the existing budget. Can you go over that paragraph and explain what that means?
Okay. Jeff,
That paragraph, and as well as all the other paragraphs in the resolutions, essentially say that there are no funds in your operations fund or your rainy day fund or other funds that normally come in through the normal budget cycle that are sufficient in the amount of $6,350,000 to fund this project and to maintain your fund balances as well as maintain your other expenditures that you have coming during the normal course of the year. And so to be able to do the additional appropriation, because it is outside of your normal budget process, you have to make a finding that there is not sufficient funds within your normal budget appropriations to fund this project. And since you didn't adopt a budget with that in mind, nor does any school corporation or governmental entity fund its capital projects through its normal budget, that is one of the findings you have to make. And so that's required by Indiana law, that there aren't sufficient funds in your normal budget for this project, not that there aren't sufficient funds to run your operations on a daily basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
okay,
carries.
thank you very much.
Next on the agenda, we have Mr. Quiet in the financial report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Scott. For the January 2024 financial report, nothing significant to note in terms of expenditures. I would point out we received a question regarding the budget numbers, and I just wanted to share that comprises our POs move forward from previous years. And so in the operations fund right now, we have 2 years of buses because of supply chain issues that we're waiting to receive. So that's kind of inflated that number a bit. And then as I'm sure Mr. Scott has mentioned before in the budgeting process, we always ask and budget for as much as we can ask for. And so while those numbers may look a little higher than revenues, that is not the true necessarily expenditures for that year. And it's more of a cash flow piece when we kind of monitor that and keep our eyes on that. And then the ESSER 3 is moving along well. We're working closely with the administrative team here to make sure that we are expending all those dollars that the federal government has awarded us to take care of the school. And if there's no comments, that concludes my comments on the financial report.
Questions or comments from the audience on the financial report? Hearing none, we can move right into the insurance update.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Scott. On the insurance update for January 2024, I would note that the current month's expenditures are significantly higher than the previous year. We think that's a function of a couple different things, working with our insurance committee and LHD. One, with the announcement of changing the plans, we expected some additional expenditures near the end of the year, which would spend out in January as those claims came through. Additionally, we've had some high claimants. I believe the year prior we had 2. This year we've seen, I think, 4 to 5 already. So we're monitoring that closely. Not a panic at this point, but certainly something that we're keeping an eye on moving forward, and more to come in February. So
I claim it is $50,000 or more.
$50,000 or more, yes. So if there's other questions, that concludes my comments on the insurance report.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Melissa, is it Gross? Okay.
Hi, I am Melissa Gross. I am currently a special education teacher at Westside. Started my career in 2001 as a language arts teacher at PM Rand, so I've been around for a while. Right now, we kind of have a problem with the Elkhart Promise when it comes to my kids at Westside. We have children who have not had a certified science teacher in 2 years. We currently have half of our 8th grade students who do not have a certified language arts teacher. I've got a really, really great administrative team. They've come up with a lot of innovative solutions, but those solutions have been shut down. I've been out in the community, and some of the rumors that people in our community have heard are that we had a science teacher who was coming to the high school, from the high school, to teach one of our science classes, just one period a day. She couldn't continue to do that. The rumor that was heard was that if we can't provide a science teacher for all of the children, we're not going to provide a science teacher for these kids. The other rumor that was going around, because we had English teachers from the high school who were willing to come on their prep period and sub in our building to give our language arts kids a certified language arts teacher, we were told that there wasn't money for that to pay these teachers overloads. We just spoke about the rigor that we want our children to have when they get to the high school. What we're doing now by not providing these children with certified teachers is going to be felt for years to come. They take the biology I learn after they complete biology their freshman year. If they've already had 2 years without a science teacher in middle school, their foundation is hobbled, to say the best. My building's goal is based on language arts this year and us making progress. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot by having 25% of our students not have a certified language arts teacher. The Elkhart Promise is broken to my kids, and we have to do better. What questions do you have for me?
Traditionally, we don't respond in this format. We're here to listen. And
Okay, thank you.
Great. From Superintendent.
Just a couple of things. First, I'll remind you that your next board meeting is March the 12th. That'll be held at Pierre Moran Middle School at 7 o'clock in the evening. If I might, Mr. President, members of the board, I might make just a few comments. So I think that the quotation it's deja vu all over again is pretty accurate. That comes from a famous philosopher by the name of Yogi Berra, who was a baseball player back in the 50s and 60s, and he usually said something that didn't make a lot of sense, but had a bit of truth to it. And for me, this truly is deja vu all over again. I want to thank the board and the staff for the privilege and honor of working with you since July. Not something I had planned to do, but I can tell you that in this 7 months back in the district, it has reminded me of the great programs that we have for kids and the outstanding staff members that we have serving them. I am particularly excited about the future for the district. I think the board has made an outstanding choice with Dr. Huff. I think over the last few months, we've been able to work on some foundational pieces that will help his transition, help the district going forward. And so I'm looking forward to watching from afar, if you will, as you work together with him. Just a personal note, my time with the school district dates back to 1952. I'll let you do the math. As a kindergartner at Mary Beck, and except for a couple of years that I worked in the Middlebury system and my time in college, my time as a student and as a staff member has been here in Elkhart. So I thought about that and I said to myself, let's see, I have been over the course of these years, I've been a baron, a rough rider. I wrote these down. A Sparky, a warrior, a wildcat, a blazer, a husky, a charger, and I'm going to close it out as a proud lion. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I'll be watching from afar. Thanks.
Do you have anything from the board?
Well, so before we would make comments, which I know we are, I just want to step in just real quick, and I want to take a minute to celebrate our music department. So the music department is a hardworking department. Maria even said something about our music department being part of our musicals. So when you think about music students, they're in school all, doing their classes, but you don't really realize how much they do outside of it. So for example, they take private lessons, they participate in, many programs that we have, SpongeBob, but recently, and last year it was Mean Girls. Recently, they had ISMA. So for those of you that don't know what ISMA is, it's Indiana State School Music Awards. So some of our musical athletes take private lessons inside of school. Some of them take lessons outside. So think about them being high school students. They work jobs, they play sports, they work inside the school on their academics, then they're working on music, and then they're taking private lessons outside. So it comes to this huge crescendo for them, if you would say, when they get to ISMA. So celebrating that, celebrating our music department and the amazing leaders, I could not go without talking about how well they did. So choir had 45 students perform in 22 different events. We had 7 gold with distinction. Now, if you do not know what gold with distinction is, that's the highest ensemble rating that you can receive at a state level. We had 10 gold ratings and 5 silver ratings. In our band, we had 19 students perform in 13 different events with 7 gold with distinction and 6 gold ratings. Orchestra had 21 students perform in 11 events, 9 with gold distinction, 9 gold ratings with distinction, 9 gold ratings, and 2 silver ratings. So that's a total of 85 students, 46 events, 23 gold ratings with distinction, 18 gold ratings, and 5 silver ratings. And that is, this is so quick moving in our musical leadership is trying to run their programs, make sure that they're working with anything extracurricular, and making sure that these musical athletes are absolutely ready for this high level performance. So I could not go without us. We celebrate so many things, but if you've never been to our music department and our administrator that leads that pathway, take a visit over there, because what is happening is incredible, and we need to always celebrate our musical athletes. So congratulations to our music department. Okay, now, you guys, I'm done.
I'll say, Mark, I just want to say, I've known you since my kids were here, and I was so grateful when you agreed to come back. Your leadership, your guidance, your support, and your counsel has been so worthy for me and invaluable. I know you love this community and you love this district. It's a part of you, and we're a part of you. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for helping us and putting some things in place and helping us build back some foundations, and your willingness to, and your graciousness to work with Dr. Huff coming in to help with this transition. I think we've learned a lot from you. I will continue to learn a lot. I am so grateful to call you a friend. And I wish you nothing but the best in your retirement again. And I hope that you're not a stranger, because it's really great coming in here and seeing you. And I just wanted to say I appreciate everything you've done. And I think you've set us up to be really successful. And I'm very excited about Dr. Huff coming and taking over. But I just wanted to say thank you.
Mark, this has been a pleasure, and this was the second time you and I have done this. All right, and I know that we got it right this time. And as I mentioned before, there's something about you that's a calming effect. It's peaceful. People kind of refocus themselves. And the best, the way I could describe it is, you're kind of like a walking human gummy. And that's a compliment, by the way, just so you know that. Right now. Having a staff, administration and stuff like that, that is calm, that's focused, and you somehow you lift everybody that you touch. And I think that's great. And I will stick with my analogy. Thank you.
Yeah. And I thank you also. I mean, I can be a pleasant challenge, and you are, I don't know how else to put it. He has wonderful little things that just set me right where I need to be in the most joyful way. But honestly, walking into this board position, a lot of people don't realize what it is like. And it's been so many up and downs, but just in this small amount of time, giving me the ability to grow in a different way and really kind of settle and, kind of step back a little bit and realize the value of what we have in the seven of us, and giving us the grace and wisdom to grow in hiring, Larry it's just been amazing. It's just, and even the girls at work appreciate you, because they're like, wow, when you talk about him, you're just so much more calm at work. So, you just have been a really strong, maturing staple in my life. And I greatly appreciate everything that I've learned from you. Mm-hmm.
Mark, from the moment we first met, your love for the children of Elkhart Community Schools and the community as a whole was very. Thank you so much for coming out of retirement the second time to sit in that seat again. And I don't know how we would have made it through this transitionary period without you. So leadership and your tenacity, and more than anything, your love, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. First, I'd also like to take an opportunity to thank Dr. Staley and Dr. Spiker.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For their commitment along with you, kind of the dream team to come back and help us through this time. But More specifically for you, I did not know it was 1950. Your contributions here prior to this have been felt by many. Are a presence, and I believe that everything you've done in the past, well thought out and for the right reasons. Now, I will say, I do feel the district has failed you in one instance.
Thank
Which is a
God.
good thing. It's,
Yeah, no kidding.
We failed up on that one. Too many times I think when somebody's given their heart and soul to a district like you have throughout the years, there comes a time when the tap on the shoulder comes and you're just like, that's where a lot of people would default, not you. I don't know how long it took for you to make the decision. I like to think it. So, not a lot of people would react like that. So, yeah, I want to thank you for the calming, as Kelly put, guidance that you've given us. Since I've been president, I would meet with you on a regular basis and had a plan. You take out your notepad, it was written down, and we discussed it. And then this is my thoughts. It's that type of wisdom and guidance that you can't get without the experience that you've given to this district. And that guidance and your willingness to work with Dr. Huff in the transition not only, gives me comfort, but excites me that Dr. Huff has got a lot of great, characteristics that are going to propel this district to the next level. But I also think with your assistance and giving him the background and giving him the assistance of the knowledge that you've learned, that's one thing you can't get, you can't buy, can't go to school for it, is that experience, and you have that. So thank you for that and your willingness to continue in that transition period. So much for everything you've done and specifically what you've done here.
I'd like to add one more thing here. As you mentioned, the Dream Team. And we have one more member of the Dream Team in the room with us right now, Mr. Frank Surge, and Barb Kripe was also a member of the Dream Team. And I'd like to, thank those for Mark for assembling the Dream Team and coaching the Dream Team along, as well as our board here. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Instructed to bang the gavel.
Hold on. Give me a
But I will
chance.
not do that because
I'm doing Doug this time. I got you before you get the gavel.
And there you go.
I don't know how many of you know, but Mark and my dad went to school together. They played sports together. So when we first got on this journey, my dad kept saying, if you guys need some help, I can call my friend. And I'm thinking, who is your friend and how can your friend help us? And he finally told me it was Mark. So I just have, it's been an honor getting to know you over the last couple months. I appreciate your guidance through this process. We did not always see eye to eye. We had quite a few tough conversations, but we made it through on the other end. And I appreciate your help because I don't think we could have did it without you. So enjoy your retirement. And I'm going to say, don't come back this time. Hopefully it will not be a next
Unless we
time.
need him in a different, I've got thoughts.
Don't come back, Mark. Now,
Sorry,
the
I
gavel.
gotta keep it to myself. Wait, not yet. Hold on. One last quick little thing. Not that we want to say goodbye to Mr. Mao, but in the event that he's watching and we don't know, it's also our superintendent that's coming in, Dr. Larry Huff's birthday. So happy birthday to Dr. Huff.
Oh, we need to sing a song.
Well, we're gonna drop that gavel right now.
Let me say one more thing. Sorry. Roosevelt is having a Black History Month program Thursday at 5:30. So if you guys are able to attend, come out. It's going to be a good program. Dr. Huff will be there. Mark will be there. So if you don't have any plans, come see us at Roosevelt Thursday at 5:30.
Drop that gavel. Do it.
Meeting